sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The following is a pattern interruption of your regularly scheduled brainwashing program.
Welcome to the Reality OS with Tracy Connors and myself, Peter Duke. How you doing today, Tracy?
I'm good. How are you doing, Peter?
Well, I'm a little distressed, Tracy. I retweeted, I quote tweeted something a few hours ago, and I got banned from Twitter for 12 hours for the comment "science" and the wrong link. You've heard of wrong think before, but I haven't heard of wrong link before. So I've been banned for 12 hours for wrong link.
Oh, that's a good one, Peter. I like that.
What's crazy about it, though, is that I got a follow-up email from Twitter claiming that I had violated their revenge porn rule. And it turns out that after some fast checking with some of our friends on in our other chat channels, that many people have been banned from Twitter for sharing the same link, and they've all received similar emails accusing them of posting revenge porn. So I quickly thought, when we did the Hunter Biden thing, all we were really doing was playing an audio file. There wasn't any pictures or anything. So, how you doing, Simon? And so it's a little disturbing. It's a little unsettling. And then someone else texted us and told us that he shared a screenshot of, as I understand it, of him being banned on Twitter, and then Facebook put him on suspension for posting a screenshot of his ban on Twitter, which makes me think the system is aware and we're living in James Cameron's Terminator or something.
My understanding was he also got banned on Twitter for the same thing that you did, and then took a screen cap of that and tried to share that on Facebook, and then got banned on Facebook or in trouble, whatever that looks like. Right.
And the link in question is a link that is about, let me see, because somebody gave me some information about it, that it's a site that's about, is it Bedford's Law?
I believe that's what it's called.
And Bedford's Law is a mathematical anomaly detection methodology that people who do audits use in order to discover fraud. And the article is about how Joe Biden's vote distribution violates Bedford's Law, which is a good indicator that fraud had occurred. Now, even though I knew it came from, I think the original link came from Jim Hoff from Gateway Pundit, and my sources tell me that it's Gao's site, who's the guy who's associated with Steve Bannon.
Yes.
But I checked the math, and I read the article before I quote tweeted it, and the math actually lines up. So I didn't think that I could get in trouble for posting an article, regardless of who it came from, that was about math. And guess again, I was wrong. But not only did I get charged with wrong link, but I've been now tarred with some kind of revenge porn violation on Twitter for the same thing.
It's awful. And I'm just going to throw up for a second so everybody can see this. This was the tweet that Peter dared to tweet.
Yeah.
So
Go
ahead.
Yeah. All I did was quote tweet it. And the comment that I made was science, MUH science. And within about 2 minutes, I was banned. You should probably take that down before we get banned for you putting it up there, Tracy.
But if anybody wants to see it, it's still up on Jim Hoff's Twitter for some reason. Because I reached out to Jim when this happened and I said, people are getting banned for sharing that tweet that you had. And if you read the comments on it, there's a couple people in the comments saying the same thing happened to them as happened to you. And he wasn't aware of it.
Right. And like I said, my comment was science. That's it. So yeah, Bedford's Law. There's Patrick and Tara. Bedford's Law basically looks at the first digits in when you're counting things. So every precinct has a total, and there's the first digit on each total is indicative of something, and there's a disproportionate number of 4, 5s, and 6s, I think, in the distribution.
Okay.
At least that's the way that I understand it. I talked to a friend of mine he's got a master's degree in financial architecture. And here's what he just said to me. Has anyone done it? He said more evidence that it's, I showed him that I got banned, and he said it's more evidence that it's a steal because it's so benign. And then he goes on to talk about some other kind of math stuff that I don't really understand. Has anyone done a Monte Carlo analysis of this stuff yet? So you have a sample and a population, right? If you're trying to figure out something about a population using a sample, that's a statistical inference. But if you have the population and then you're trying to figure something out about a sample, you use a Monte Carlo analysis. Polling is a statistical inference. Voter fraud detection should be Monte Carlo Markov chain, MCMC. And I'll stop if I'm glazing.
Yeah, you're reading
over.
that too fast and it's math stuff.
All right, well, I'll stop talking about it.
Can you explain it in plain old, second grade English?
I wish I did. My friend is kind of a math genius, and I don't actually understand this stuff. And he doesn't, he has the same issue that a lot of my smart friends have, which is that he's not scaffolding it. He's just jumping into the middle and trying to let me know how to figure it out, assuming that I took all of the undergraduate classes that he took that I didn't take.
Yeah, like I say, explain it to me like I'm dumb.
Yeah, I wish I should. I was going to ask him before we started if he wanted to come on and talk to us. I could ask him right now.
Yeah. But are we going to be able to get him to build some scaffolding on the spot?
Yeah, I don't know. We could just talk about all of the implications of the fact that you're tweeting a post about math, and then you're getting banned by Twitter, and then you're
science, Peter. Let's be real here.
What?
These are the people that worship at the altar of science, and
right.
God forbid we do some statistical analysis.
Right, and I guess it's is it blasphemy, or if I'm saying science because I'm making fun of their God?
Yes, this is why you get banned for. I'm guessing that the bans are going to come, and they're going to come fast. You're going to get banned for tweeting anything that's anti-global warming because you're insulted the Church of Scientology, of climate Scientology. That is. I
think it's probably more. I think we're at an inflection point right now. Ali just had his Stop the Steal marches yesterday, I think in 50 state capitals. Thousands of people showed up at the capitals of every state in the union and let the legislators know. And I was thinking about it this morning about, people were talking about doing a march on Washington or something like that. And I think that that's probably like the obvious thing that people would do. And if we wanted to avoid some kind of Maidan Plaza kind of provocation in a color revolution, that we probably should figure out a more federated way to do it, which marching on the individual state capitals probably makes more sense.
Well, you went there to the roof without putting up the scaffolding because not everybody knows what the Maidan is.
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
That's why you're here, Tracy.
I know.
The Maidan Plaza, so a color revolution, which we talked about in one of our previous episodes, is...
And I'll add a link up here.
Okay. is because she does that, is a is a system that the Central Intelligence Agency has been using for I don't know 20 years now to flip countries. It's basically a playbook. If you go to the Brookings Institute, there is literally a color revolution handbook that you can download. It's a PDF. I think it's a couple hundred pages, and they're doing it here. And so one of the things that they want to do is that they want to create this left-right provocation. They have half of the population hypnotized against the other half of the population, and what they want to do is they want to incite some kind of violence, so that they have an excuse for sending in, the stormtroopers, and then bringing order. And the order that they bring in, I assume, will have blue helmets on in this case.
It's the New World Order,
right? And so it's incumbent that we kind of like prevent that from happening, but at the same time, it's also incumbent to let people know that if there is a massive fraud on the electorate going on, that's a violation against all Americans, not just Donald Trump. And the left wants to make this about Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump is the choice of more Americans, according to the rules of why am I losing
the Constitution?
No, what's the
Like the Electoral
the
College?
Electoral College, yeah. I had college and I forgot electoral. The Electoral College, then that's the will of the people. And there's a reason why the P in the Constitution for people is capitalized, and that's because we are part of that contract. We don't give all of our power over to the government. The government, there's a social contract. The government owes us something, and if they are not keeping up their part of the contract, that is incumbent to go to the preamble to the Constitution, which is the Declaration of Independence, where there's a long list of grievances that the American colonists had against the king. And it seems like we're at that point at this moment. I think Donald Trump is desperately trying to stay within the confines of the Constitution, but if he can't do that, stuff's going to happen. And it's better that people know. I come from the full transparency end of the spectrum, rather than the people shouldn't know this stuff because it would cause too many problems school of information control. I come from the declassify everything school. And at this point, I mean everything.
Right. Well, we'll get to. Let me close the loop though on the Maidan, because you never actually hit that. There was a color revolution. They started after the fall of the Soviet Empire, and so they launched one in Ukraine in the early 2000s and had to do a follow-up one during the Obama administration. This is where you get Victoria Nuland, who is Deputy Secretary of State or something like this over there. There's phone calls with her, kind of picking the next president. They didn't like the guy that was in there at the time. And so they wanted to get the UN forces in there, right? That was the whole setup. And this is chronicled in a documentary that came out either last year or the year before called Ukraine on Fire, the real story that Oliver Stone did. Lee Stranahan's in it as well. He's talked about this quite a bit. And it came across that there were protests in the street. And if they had a body count of, I think it was 100, then all of a sudden there would be a swell of support to send UN troops in. And guess how many people they got shot up when they had this whole big to-do that Peter's warning about going to the mall is a little scary because you're kind of then boxed in. So they had these people protesting in the square and snipers hit them from two sides. And it was, of course, claimed that these snipers were pro-government forces while the protesters were anti-government forces. And that resulted in a body count that just hit 100. And now all of a sudden, here comes the troops rolling in.
Right. I think it was NATO. They wanted Ukraine to be a member of NATO.
Of course.
Yeah. And, George Webb hypothesizes that the snipers were Russian, but they were hired by the cryptocracy, you could call it the CIA, whatever it is, and that the handler that was managing that is this guy, I can't remember his name. He got arrested in Moscow and he's in prison now. he went to Moscow and they found him with a USB drive with the names and contact information for like 100 people, and it's hypothesized that those were all, Russian mercenaries that he was looking to hire. Somebody will probably fill me in.
I'm sure they will. Was it Taylor?
Taylor?
No.
No, you're talking about
There
Bill
you go.
Taylor. No, yeah, Paul Whelan. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. So George hypothesizes that Paul Whelan was the organizer for the snipers in the Maidan, and they were the shots that were taken hit both sides equally. That is, they shot police on one side, and then they shot the kind of lead protesters on the other side in a very kind of provocative way that seemed like what they were trying to do was create an insurrection where the two groups would commingle and punish each other.
Yep.
So we want to avoid that. We don't want MAGA versus Antifa in the streets, because that plays to their game plan. We need to figure out a way to stay within the boundaries of civility to the best of our abilities in order to move the ball forward. And that's why I'm praying that Trump has something going on as far as evidence is concerned besides things like Bedford distributions, because that's anecdotal, and at that point it becomes a coin flip of the court, and I'd rather have it not be a coin flip.
Right. And you also have to explain statistical analysis to a judge and hope
Right.
that they understand it. It's not an easy sell.
Right, and I can assume that you would have two mathematicians, a for and against mathematician, making arguments to the court, which sounds like a
Snooze fest?
well, I don't care about a snooze fest. It sounds like Scott again would probably call it a confusopoly, where you've got one side trying to be as articulate and succinct as the other, and the other side trying to take whatever the argument is and make it as confusing as possible. That seems to be relatively easy to do in math. So, what do we got here? Hugh is back.
Welcome back, Hugh.
Welcome back, Hugh. So what were we going to talk about before all this banning happened?
We were talking earlier today about the emotional roller coaster that we know that we've both been on.
Right.
And everybody else has been on this whole week, and how to cope with that.
Right. And I always think about my favorite movie of all time, All That Jazz, because Bob Fosse did such a good job of taking Helen Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of death: anger, denial, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Except I think she put it in a different order, and he changed it because it sounded better. And thinking about my feelings right now about what's going on, and I think that I'm in the anger phase. And again, this is only assuming that something has died. And the question for me is, like, what has died? Is it the Republic? Because I kind of thought that the Republic died in my head about 2 years ago. I didn't think that we lived in a republic anymore. And that we have this kind of kabuki theater construct that looks like a republic and smells like a republic and sounds like a republic, but it's not a republic. Or whether or not it's the death of hope. And I hate the word hope, because hope is usually something that you have when you have nothing else. But depending on Donald Trump to actually fix everything is kind of hope. And so the stages are anger, denial. So you get mad when something happens, and then you get into denial. I mean, I'm trying to figure out whether or not looking at Bedford's Law is denial. Because although there has been a case in our lifetime, the 2000 election, where everybody projected that Al Gore won the election, and then weeks later, before the Electoral College met, it got turned over in court, And I'm very happy that Joe Biden was the head of the Judiciary Committee when they put Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court, because payback's a bitch. And that makes me laugh. But again, it's kind of a hope thing. It's kind of like you see a soap bubble and it's floating across the sky there, and you're hoping, boy, I sure hope it doesn't pop. So anger, denial, bargaining. Bargaining is, well, okay, well, Joe Biden is going to be in office, but that way everybody is going to learn anyway how bad the things are that we've been warning them about anyway. Depression is like, okay, I'm on food stamps now for the rest of my life. And then acceptance is, I guess this is the way it's going to be. I don't want to go through that.
So you're just going to stick with anger?
I'm going to stick with anger for the moment, yeah. But I'll be happily angry.
All right.
I think you could be angry and be upbeat about it. I think that's kind of Bannon's brand, isn't it?
Yeah, happy warrior stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that works.
I was waiting to see if anybody else made assault pitchforks yesterday, though. I hadn't seen them yet.
You have to put up the how-to video.
Yeah, I do. You're beyond angry and scare yourself. Yeah, don't scare yourself. Just go for a walk.
Yeah, but see, going for a walk, because I try to jump. I had one day of depression. So Wednesday, because if anybody followed us Tuesday evening, Peter and I were on a 6-hour live stream.
Something like that. And then I went on the kill stream after that. And Ethan Ralph passed out before I started talking.
But when we went to bed, I went to bed around 2 a.m. And I thought, when we got off the stream, we both were kind of like, well, it's looking like it's trending Trump, but don't be surprised if they steal this out from under us in the middle of the night. But that reality of it the next day, even though I had already played that scenario out in my mind, was still a little bit difficult to accept. Yeah,
and I guess what we didn't realize, and it was probably because we were lulled into something from the 2016 election, is that the voting counted in the 5 swing states. And we were sitting there and talking for about an hour or two, looking at the numbers not moving, and we hadn't noticed that they weren't moving. And so when I woke up this morning and I saw what happened and I realized what happened, I was kind of kicking myself for not noticing. But, you know.
Well, we were trying to look at every map, because that was the real interesting thing to us that evening, is Axios had put out an article saying these are the acceptable news outlets for calling different states during the election, and they each had an election map. So it was ABC, CBS, NBC, the AP, Fox News, and CNN, and Decision Desk. And so we ended up pulling up all 7 of those maps, and lo and behold, every map says something different.
Right.
Like, how are we supposed to trust anybody? Are you trying to break all of our brains, or are you just hoping nobody else is going to dig into all 7 of these maps? They're going to pick their map of their choice and just lock in on that one so they won't see the discrepancies.
Right. Somebody asked the question, do you know who Thomas Wichter is? Yes. I know who he is, and I have mixed feelings about him. I want to believe what he's saying. And I think I tweeted out when he made a post a couple of days ago that I wanted to believe what he's saying, and that my confirmation bias was talking. I went and I fact-checked him, and I went to the CISA website. So if you guys don't know, Thomas Wichter is this guy who had a prolific Twitter feed. He's quite autistic. He's quite detail-oriented. And upon analysis, he maps very directly to a Milton Erickson style of hypnosis, in that he loves to dig deep into details and create pictures in your head. He's very good at it.
And doing that creates an alpha state then.
Yeah, it creates an alpha state, and it makes you open to suggestion. He used to do it in Twitter. I shared something with Tracy and Pat yesterday. I started to write an article on, or maybe a book on how to hypnotize people using social media. And Wichter is good at it. He's really good at it. And his videos are very theatrical, I would say. He does this kind of Wizard of Oz thing where he's got a black background and he wears a black shirt and he's just a head floating. And he does these weird gesticulations where he wants to punctuate things with his face like that. It's incredibly manipulative and theatrical. And so I went and I checked the CISA, which is the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, which Trump did create in 2018, that was supposed to be looking to protect our elections from interference, but their focus is on Russia, China, and Iran. So they're
not focusing on the Democrats in major cities.
They don't seem to be focusing on any kind of domestic voter fraud in any way, shape, or form. And the CISA website posted a tweet yesterday guaranteeing that the Michigan vote had not been affected by Iran, China, or Russia, which didn't make me feel very happy. And the director of the CISA is posting pictures of his socks that he's wearing every day.
And that's not a joke.
No. At the moment in time when, if Thomas Wichter is if what he is saying is correct, should be the most important moment in this guy's career. He's posting pictures of his socks. So
it's a huge head fake, Peter. That's trust the plan.
It's a trust the plan. And what it does is it keeps you in front of your computer or in front of your phone instead of going out and meeting all these people on the steps of your state capitol yesterday, right? Because you're all waiting for the CISA to come save you. I don't believe the CISA is going to come save you. I believe that I want to believe that Donald Trump is going to save himself. But given the fact that he's had all of the resources of the office of the President of the United States for 3.5 years now, and there are certain things that he hasn't done. He hasn't indicted anyone. Remember the Clinton Foundation? Remember Benghazi? Remember the emails? Remember Anthony Weiner's laptop? Remember Fast and Furious? Remember any of those things? Mm-hmm. No indictments, none. For any of those things, and no Section 270. Everybody keeps talking about Section 270 in the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
230, you mean?
230, yeah, 230. Sorry, 270 is how many votes electoral college votes you need to win, right? So. Wait, what did he say? He deleted everything?
He deleted everything from his computer, i.e. Google Chrome and all my research bookmarks. Okay. I don't think you need to go that far, Hugh.
Yeah, I don't either.
The world is not coming to an end tomorrow.
No.
This is going to drag out for a long time. So what Peter's saying, don't sit there and stare at Twitter all day and refresh and look for stuff that, this could turn it. This is going to be the thing.
Yeah, nobody's going to find the evidence on the internet and tweet it out and have that change the world. That's a fairy tale. That's not going to happen. If you want to be effective, if you want to do something, direct action, I would suggest following Ollie Alexander. He has a website called stopthesteal.us. You can go sign up there. You can put your name and contact information in there. And if you've got something, a valuable service that you can provide, they're looking for, last night he was looking for web developers. He was looking for graphic artists. He was looking for executive assistants. He said anybody who's got executive assistants experience he's looking for, because they're trying to they went from a couple of people talking to each other on the phone, Scott Pressler and Ali talking,
Jack Posobiec,
right, and then there's all of this drama with Mike Cernovich too, because Mike Cernovich has apparently decided that he's giving up or something. I stopped paying attention at that point. And then there was a fight between Brandon Straka and Mike, and Mike's all, I'm full of love, brother,
Yeah. Well, he did say he was done after the election. So,
yeah.
But he was one of the first ones to hop in a car and go.
Right. And so he went and but it does cause cognitive dissonance, right?
Sure.
So
no, I understand that. But yeah, that's something actionable that you can do. I mean, the other thing that I think could actually work is O'Keefe's work. So when I was feeling terrible on Wednesday, I got an email from his organization saying, hey, we're doing 4 times matching of every donation for the next 12 hours. And you can't take my money fast enough, James. So if they have a big, they have reward money sitting out there for whistleblowers, that's what it's going to take.
Right.
I mean, Blagojevich, seeing him, I don't know if you had a chance to watch that yet, Peter, but that to me was one of the most convincing things when you've got this disgraced governor who went to jail for trying to sell Barack Obama's Senate seat saying, oh yeah, Democrats cheating in big city elections. Everybody knows this. This is just how it's done.
Right.
So, but will we get justice? I'm not holding out hope for it.
Right. And that's why I'm going through, losing the election is one thing, but understanding that we have lived in a banana republic for probably my entire life is kind of a cold slap in the face. It's like, oh, these things that I believed, I got taught that we've got this republic and this constitution and this framework for all of this stuff, but they didn't teach me that Edward Mandell House wrote a handbook, in the beginning of the 20th century on how to take over governments that involved filling every office in the bureaucracy with your own people so that you can control which direction the government is going regardless of who gets elected. I never got that chapter in 8th grade U.S. history.
You think an 8th grade U.S. history teacher even knows who Edward Mandell House is?
Nope.
No.
No.
I never heard that name in school.
Yeah. And for the audience, Edward Mandell House was Woodrow Wilson's handler. So Woodrow Wilson was kind of like a Barack Obama character. He was a college professor who had no experience in politics and was run by machine politicians as governor of the state that he was in. I can't remember.
New Jersey.
Was it New Jersey?
Yeah, he was the president of Princeton, and that's in Jersey.
Right. So he was the president of Princeton, then he was the governor of New Jersey for 2 years. And then they ran him as a Democrat, but in order to make sure that he won the election, J.P. Morgan gave Teddy Roosevelt a bunch of money and stroked his ego really hard and told him that he needed to start this progressive bull moose party because Wilson was the guy that they needed to have sign into law the Federal Reserve Act and the income tax legislation. And so Roosevelt ran against his old friend, William Howard Taft. William Howard Taft was the Secretary of State for Teddy Roosevelt and had been president for 4 years. And Teddy Roosevelt ran against him again. And Woodrow Wilson wound up becoming the president in the same way that Ross Perot kind of put Bill Clinton into office. And Edward Mandell House was, for all intents and purposes, Woodrow Wilson's handler. He steered Woodrow Wilson through the legislative process and through all of the different things that he needed to do as president, and basically was, writing all his speeches and making all of his policies. And
he wrote what they took with them to Paris, right after World War I.
Well, the 17 points. Or
17, 18,
or 14, yeah. How many?
Redrawing the boundaries of European countries and all that kind of stuff. And he was ready to launch the League of Nations, and they couldn't sell it to the Senate.
Right. And that was the original takeover. That was the original coup, was in 1919. Or actually...
it starts a little bit. I mean, that's part of the
1912 is when he got elected. So that's really when this started. So, what we're dealing with right now has been going for 108 years. And I don't think anybody watching this stream right now is 108 years old.
No.
So.
Although some voters were.
All right. I took part in a hypnosis experiment as an undergrad. Although the person consciously agrees to be hypnotized, their actions are spookily autonomous, like blind sight. Yeah, I had my wisdom teeth taken out, and I was put under general anesthetic. And when I came out of surgery, I had a bruise on my face that was the shape of the surgeon's hand. So I had 4 finger bruises on one side of my face and a thumb bruise on the other side of my face. And I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think that I remembered any part of the surgery. And about 5 or 6 days later, I went to the car wash, and I was waiting for my car to come out of the car wash. And I was standing there talking to a friend of mine, and my oral surgeon came walking up. And I unconsciously introduced my friend to the oral surgeon, and then I grabbed the oral surgeon's he said, how do you know this guy? And I turned to the oral surgeon and I said, because he, and I grabbed him by the jaw. And I said, because he broke my jaw 4 days ago. And it was a completely out-of-body experience. Like, wow. I didn't feel like I had any control over myself when I did that. And he was shook. He didn't want me to come back in for I was supposed to come back in a week for an examination. He referred me to another doctor. And I'm still, when I think back about it, it was completely involuntary. And I thought something might have happened when I was in surgery. I must have heard something, or there must have been some kind of understanding that I had of what was going on. And I still don't know why that happened, except that they say that when you're under certain anesthetics, like, you actually do understand what's going on. You just don't know you're understanding what's going on. So
it's passing right through your conscious mind into your subconscious,
I guess.
And the theory is that everything that's ever happened to you exists somewhere in that morass, and you just need the right thing to pull it out.
Right. And it just happened that he showed up at the car wash, and I was probably in an alpha state talking to my friend about something else. And it reminds me of all of the descriptions that Kathy O'Brien makes about dissociative identity disorder. I guess I disassociated, right? The anesthetic created a dissociative state in me. And that's where the pain of my oral surgery is probably stored someplace, or at least the knowledge of it happening, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about oral surgeons.
Yeah,
instead
I know.
Of the
That's
election,
interesting. I'm catching up on all the comments. So someone's saying General Mattis may be related to Edward Mandell House. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Dave Underdown, get in there, figure that one out for us.
Or John, or Mark Kulak, right?
Well, imagine what MK Ultras deal with. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So Arthur's saying the body's autonomous system is intelligent independently of your conscious awareness.
Yeah, well, it certainly seemed that case at the car wash that day.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see. We'll watch Paul Cottrell's episodes. 47
through 49. It was violent. Yeah. And he told me, that when he was doing the surgery that they were really in there and that he was going to have to get in there. And my dentist, when he was looking at my x-rays, had recommended a woman to be the oral surgeon. He goes, well, you can go. The guy, I said, who was the guy that did yours? Because he had his wisdom teeth out. And so I went to the guy that he had his wisdom teeth taken out by. But the dentist said to me, he said, you might want to try this woman. And I said, why is that? Is she better? And he goes, well, she's smaller. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, she's this tiny Asian woman. And if you need to get impacted wisdom teeth out and you're small, you may have to be cleverer than stronger.
Why would being small mean you're clever? Is he
because you don't have the hand strength to
gross.
do
Well, I hope everybody now is just thinking about getting wisdom teeth ripped out instead of losing an election to a bunch of thieves.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And you are lucky that that surgeon didn't have a concealed pitchfork license, Peter.
Yeah, I am. I liked him. I thought he was a nice guy. I just maybe my subconscious self didn't like him. Anyway.
Yeah, your subconscious is like, hey, Peter, that guy broke your face.
Right.
You should probably break his. Yeah. Yeah, not having remembered driving home is because you go into an alpha state when you're driving. Between the combination of feeling almost weightless as you glide over the pavement and then the white lines, the repetitiveness of that will put you into an alpha state.
Especially if you're listening to music like EDM or something that's got some kind of like, rhythmic beat going on. That'll do it.
Well, it's interesting to think about that and then think about the power of talk radio.
Yep.
That's got to be the most powerful medium that there is, because you're mostly going to listen to that in the car until recently when you could get podcasts.
Especially if you listen to Sean Hannity's monologue, which is a completely hypnotic presentation. He does that bullet point thing.
And he's repetitive as hell. I can't take it. Dirty air, dirty water, whatever. They hate us. Limbaugh does the same thing. He's very repetitive.
All right. Dindog22 says you want a guy with muscles. Okay. That's the way I went.
All right. We'll have to look into that vasovagal, polyvagal theory, Stefan. All right. I'll make a note and come back. Small women can, yeah, that's true. They do give great massages.
Indeed.
All right. Well, be prepared to get your face broken, Stephanie, if you're getting your wisdom teeth out. All right. We'll check out that interview with Addie.
In 6 minutes. So somebody on our...
No, at 6 minutes. I think he's saying at 6 minutes into that episode.
Right.
Yes, disassociation. We'd call that blind sight in some science. All right. Yeah, I don't know if Judge Janine is out at Fox, and
I would have to watch Fox to know that. Yeah. Stop watching. If you're depressed, stop watching Fox.
Yes.
Like, really, just stop watching television. I mean, the people clip it and they post it up on social media. Whatever is important, you're going to wind up finding out about anyway. And I've made jokes about it before that I use social media like Plato's cave. I'm much more interested in the ripples in the pond than I am in the rocks that get thrown. And if you pay attention to social media and you don't watch television, then you can see what everybody is screaming about, and you can kind of do an amplitude analysis. If there's a bunch of people screaming out about something, then you go and you try to figure out what it is that they're screaming about. But there's this FOMO thing that happens with news.
FOMO being fear of missing out. Fear
of missing out, right. You have this feeling like, I need to know something the second that it happens, because if I don't find out about it before anybody else, something might happen that will affect me in a negative way, and I won't be able to deal with, I won't be able to invest in Bitcoin, or I won't be able to go to the market and get toilet paper or whatever it is. So people have fear of missing out. I haven't watched TV in 2 weeks. Good. Keep doing it.
Feel better.
Keep doing it. Just remember,
Yeah, just don't look. Exactly. And ECAT, I do think that it could work to listen to binaural beats while you're driving. That might help.
I mean, here's something that the researchers can go find out. They can go fact check me on. I'm not sure that this is true, but I have been told that Tucker Carlson's grandfather was the original head of the Voice of America, which was the original smith-mundt budget allocation item. So smith-mundt was passed in order to pay for Voice of America, and the first person who ran Voice of America was Tucker Carlson's grandfather.
And so, smith-mundt gives the government the ability to create and spread propaganda, right?
Right. It was in the what was the committee? In the church committee. In the church committee, it came out that the smith-mundt money was being used in order to pay journalists in American broadcasting. So, when people think that Fox is letting everybody down. They're letting everybody down now, right? Because they're going with a corporate or the conventional wisdom kind of messaging, which is, oh, Joe Biden got elected and we should all sing Kumbaya and get together. That just goes to show you that that's what their purpose is to feed your confirmation bias and then steer you in the direction that they want you to go in. And you'll probably be a lot more aware of what's going on if you start doing what John and Mark and the rest of us have been doing, which is just reading history books that are written by legitimate journalists talking about what actually is happening, instead of the things that wind up being fed to us through the New York Times bestseller list and television in order to make us believe that the world is a different way than it really is.
That's a binaural beats question that was answered. But this popped up. His father was, I don't know about the grandfather. So I guess that's in relation to Tucker.
All right. Well, good. That's why I wanted to get fact checked. Maybe it was his father and not his grandfather.
And yes, it is legal gaslighting, but the Voice of America is our international propaganda. That's what's played in other countries.
That's right. But that money, the money for Voice of America was being funneled back through Voice of America, I think, into American media outlets, or at least the money that was earmarked for Voice of America was winding up being used for journalists in the American market.
They're consultants, right?
Yeah, they're writers.
They're stenographers.
Yeah, they're publishing articles in think tanks that wind up getting picked up by the Heritage Foundation or Brookings Institute or whoever it is that is fronting for them. And then they get invited onto the news programs and they talk about their grand theories. And those, if they're done correctly, if they're done like Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow, if the presentation is done correctly, you'll be at a cocktail party the next day. And the same things that came out of Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow's mouth will be coming out of your mouth as if it's your own idea.
Yeah.
So stop watching TV.
Right. And when you hear those ideas coming out of your own mouth, think, where did I come up with that?
Right.
Is that my original thought? So that's interesting. Justice Earl Warren's son-in-law ran the Voice of America.
Oh, Earl Warren. Yeah. Earl Warren, who was the governor of California, who put all of the Japanese in internment camps. And then when he became the head of the Supreme Court, there was a couple of, didn't he rule on busing? School? I can't remember.
I don't know. Let's not get into busing in schools and stuff. Welcome, Carpe Dunctum.
I love you too, Carpe Dunctum, and I miss you, brother. I miss you.
Yeah. Well, now Peter has joined you behind the silicone curtain.
Right. Exactly. I don't know if you heard, Carpe, but I got banned this morning for quote tweeting a link that Jim Hoff posted from a site that was talking about Bedford's Law, and my comment was science, M-U-H, science, and I got a 12-hour suspension. And anybody who retweeted me also got banned, so that was fun.
Yes, but Jim Hoff was spared, and I have to think that that's because he's too big of an account to take down. They're picking off the infantry.
Right. Because I have enough blue check people who follow me, I'm in a marketing category called Super Friends, which is people who have less than 10,000 followers who have a certain threshold of blue check people that follow them back. So I guess I need to get punished. But yeah. What freaked me out is that our friend screenshotted, my science, that's right. What freaked me out a little bit is our friend screenshotted his tweet that he got banned for, and then he posted that on Facebook, and then Facebook banned him for posting a screenshot of the tweet.
So that's why we called this The Network is Aware.
Right.
The algorithms have totally taken over.
Yeah, it seems like if you get banned on Twitter and you let Facebook know, Facebook's going to ban you too, unless Facebook already knew and they were just waiting for you to do something like post a screenshot of your banning. All right. Tucker's father is ex-Voice of America.
According to
Okay.
Wikipedia. Well, that's a reliable source when this comes to it.
Okay, but was his grandfather also Voice of America is my question.
Could be. I don't know how long Voice of America's been around, though.
I think it's been around since like 46, I want to say.
It could be his dad. It could be his dad. Warren Commission was supposedly run by Alan Dulles. Of course it was.
Right,
I don't think
exactly.
there's any question about that. The fired head of the CIA gets brought back to run that whole phony commission. Thank you, LBJ.
Right. And that's the thing to think about right now, too, is that, what's the difference between now and like November 25th, 1963?
Yeah.
Which is 3 days after Kennedy got assassinated. As soon as Kennedy got assassinated, they said it was a lone gunman within a day. And within an hour of the Twin Towers going down, they were saying that it was Osama bin Laden. How do they know that?
Right.
Well,
this gets back to are we on the declassify everything train?
I think we have to be.
I totally am. I think it could be completely devastating.
Well, it will be. I mean, the reality is, my reality is that we will find out if everything gets declassified that the Russians and the Chinese are not our enemies, they are our partners, and that they use the strategy of tension in order to control their own populations. And the chances of that getting declassified without some serious duress is probably minimal.
Yes.
I mean, what do? Storm Langley? You think they're all in a filing cabinet there? I mean, if Trump
You think he hasn't seen it?
I don't know. I think if Trump was smart, he would make a laundry list of things that he wants to have declassified delivered to the White House and put on the Resolute desk, by tomorrow. And then one folder at a time, he should probably start taking pictures of them with his iPhone and tweeting them out.
Oh, he can just go live across multiple platforms at the same time.
Right.
Watch how fast the AI moves to shut it all down.
Right. Post it on whitehouse.gov.
Yeah.
And
But there is no difference between now and ever.
Right.
Now seems more important because that's the only place we can ever be, really, is now.
How real, Tracy?
Well, it's true. This
Choose
is why
your
I'm
language.
high. Everything's in a briefcase and it glows yellow when you open it.
God, that would be great.
I get it. Pulp Fiction, huh?
Is it
Trump
Pulp
have a
Fiction?
Band-Aid on the back of his neck or not?
Is it? I don't get that joke.
That's from Pulp Fiction. The whole conceit in that story is supposed to be that it's somebody's soul, Marcellus Wallace's soul. And that's why there's one shot looking over him, high angle, and you see the back of his neck and there's a Band-Aid across there. No, I have not watched Dr. Shiva's interview. I'm not going down these rabbit holes of somebody's going to pull a rabbit out of the hat.
Right. Again, all of these people who are pulling, like, I'm going to go back to what I said a few minutes ago. Benghazi, Fast and Furious, Clinton Foundation. These things happened 4, 5, 6 years ago. Trump's been in office for 3.5 years. There's no indictments. Nothing is going to change. Lee Harvey Oswald is still the lone gunman on the Wikipedia page. It's still what they teach kids in school. So if you think that running around on social media, retweeting and posting things is actually going to make a difference in what's going on, then you're the victim.
Mm-hmm. Well, have we slipped into true believership here?
Yeah, well, maybe we should talk about what true believership is. By the way, I think if you join our
Locals.
Tracy was kind enough to put all of our stuff up on Locals, and she is reading with her mellifluous voice the book The True Believer in a podcast style. Then come follow us on Locals, and you'll wind up getting that book for sure. But then we'll have to try to figure out what else we're doing. The reason that we're doing The True Believer is because that was kind of a gateway drug for a lot of people to wake themselves up about how mind control of mass movements works. And if you understand it, then you can see it. And it's kind of like it's magic in a way. Tracy and I also were talking about the fact that because we both come from motion picture production, or at least I came from advertising production that does motion pictures, that when you're in that business, it's hard to watch a TV show without thinking about, oh, how did they do that dolly move? Or I wonder where they put the mic in that shot. Or what lens is that is being used there? Like, those are the ideas that kind of pop into your head all the time when you're watching stuff that destroys your suspension of disbelief. So if you're actually in the movie business, a lot of times it's difficult to watch a movie in the same way that you watched it before you became initiated into the business. And likewise, if you read the book, The True Believer, you'll at least get initiated into the methods and practices that mass movement, the leaders of mass movements use in order to create those mass movements. Because they're very specific and they're very deliberate and they're very obvious when you know what they are. So.
And just to touch on what you were saying about working in film production and then not being able to watch a movie and just kind of relax and sit back, I actually heard somebody, I think it was Birch Driver, who I'd like to get on here to talk to us about the 7 Hermetic Principles. Yep. And so we can get into some real reality OS stuff. He was talking about the way to not be hypnotized by what you're seeing on television or when you're watching a movie is to think about those kind of things. That will interrupt that pattern. So if you sit back, I mean, the one that I watched that I absolutely loved, and there's probably like 20 pages of dialogue in the whole movie, was the latest Mad Max with Charlize Theron. I don't know if you watched that one or not, Peter.
I did. It was great.
Yeah, where they're just driving across those plains the whole time. I'm just sitting there thinking, like, holy crap, if I was an AD on that, what would I have been? Would I have been strapped to the back of one of those cars? Like, how do they do this? This is insane. Pulling that all together and then doing that at high speed. And if you watch the behind the scenes, that's what they did. They were just flying flat out, like pedal to the metal through that whole thing. People are strapped in and they're on for the whole day, I guess. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. One of the things that I recommend for people who are, if you're watching Tucker Carlson or listening to Sean Hannity on the radio, or if you're on the other side, the same is applicable for Rachel Maddow or Keith Olbermann, count the number of, because they're doing fan service. They're basically providing confirmation bias to an audience that is already thinking in a certain way. And if you just count the number of times that you say yes, Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson, when they do their monologues, they ask a lot of vague rhetorical questions up front at the beginning, and the answer for the audience whose bias they are confirming is always yes, 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 yes. And if you count the yeses, you can see the framework of the argument. You can see how they're putting it together. And then when they get to the suggestion, which is the thing that they want you saying at cocktail parties the next day or tweeting about, you'll be able to identify it and go, oh, yeah, that's the suggestion. And it's very helpful to do that, because you may still agree with them, and it's okay to still agree with them, but actually understanding how they're hypnotizing you is empowering. It gives you a lot more control over your thought process, because you can make a conscious decision about whether or not you want to agree with them, instead of what they're doing, which is tricking you into having an unconscious decision, kind of like the dentist, I suppose.
The oral surgeon.
Yeah.
Like ECAT just said, she said yes, Peter. Are you hypnotizing her?
I am, and I'm not doing it on purpose, but I don't know if you noticed, but I kind of went into a trance when I was, and it's the reason my speech is abating now, is because I'm mode switching in my head. When I started to go into that dialogue, there were a few points that I wanted to make, and so I kind of went into my subconscious. I went into alpha, and I went in and I started pulling that stuff out from memory. I'm not sure which way my eyes were going. Were they going like this? Because you can actually tell where people are accessing parts of their memory by looking at the way that their eyes move. It's a little different on a live stream like this because right now I'm looking into a monitor that's on the top of my camera, and I'm looking at myself. I would rather be looking at Tracy's pretty face, which is over there.
And for me, you're over here.
And if I have to look at the comments, because the way this stupid thing is set up, it's over there. So if my eyes are moving, they're not necessarily saccading according to the way that my memory is accessing. But in general, when you're having conversations with people, if they're looking up in one direction, they are remembering what they saw. If they're looking up in the other direction, they're constructing what they imagine. Likewise, if eyes saccade in one direction on the center line, so going like this.
I'm trying to find a visual for us here. They're all pretty nerdy. Someone did one with Hugh Laurie. That's pretty funny.
I have one here. I probably could pull up and.
They have it as lying in truth, which is not necessarily true on this.
Yeah, no, that's not true. It's constructing, and all constructing means is that you. Oh, here it is. I found it. Let me see if I can.
I'll just here. I will do it on the screen share because I found one that works. Let's see. It's big enough. Here we go. All right. So this is if you're looking at the other person, not their left is actually their right in this picture then.
Right.
And so this is standard for right-handed people.
Yeah, and it's reversed for left-handed people.
And it can be reversed for right-handed people as well, but this is the norm.
Yeah, and it just means these are called micro expressions. So when you're having a conversation with somebody, and this is how people like Bombard's body language. These are the types of methods that she uses in order for determining whether or not people are constructing or remembering things. She's looking at the way that the eyes saccade, that they move back and forth. And again, my eyes are saccading right now because I'm going back and forth from the little monitor that I'm looking at on my camera to Tracy's picture and back to the monitor and back to Tracy's picture. So you can't really tell from streamers necessarily. There's lots of people like Casey Neistat who, when they do, he's a YouTuber, and he usually uses sunglasses. George Webb does the same thing when he's outside, so that you can't see where his eyes are going, not because he's trying to hide from whether or not he's telling the truth, but because he's doing other things. He's looking at the interface. He's trying to, read stuff while he's doing it. And so live streaming is probably not the best way to analyze this stuff. But if you look at somebody having a sit-down conversation with another person, like a 60-minute style interview, a lot of times you can pick up the eye motions while they're talking to the person who's interviewing them and figure out whether or not they're constructing or remembering.
And you can test it on yourself if you want to by just saying, the question that I've heard that's used to test it is, what was the color of your bedroom when you were a child? And then when you go to think about it, be cognizant about where your eyes go.
So were you just looking up to the left and up on the center line on purpose, or is it?
No, like that's where I generally think I go, is up and to my right. So that would mean I'm constructing it. So I do think I can write pretty well with my left hand. I have right hand dominance, but I shoot with my left eye. So who knows what the hell's going on. But the other thing, I was like, I had something else to talk to everybody about on this one. It'll come back to me in a second. Anyway, I'll get him off the screen so everybody's got that.
Are there questions?
I think there probably are. Okay, hang on. Here we go. Our eyes are up here, Peter. Very funny. Oh, man. Oh, I remember what I was going to say about the eye movement. So if you realize that you're stuck on a problem, or you're thinking about something, try to be aware of where you're going. Are you going up and to the right or up and to the left? And then just try shifting your eyes to the other side. It'll throw your brain off.
Something that I've tried before and it works sometimes is if I'm trying to go to sleep and I'm restless and I can't sleep, they say that your eyes go into rapid eye movement, when you're dreaming. And sometimes I'll lay there with my eyes closed if I can't go to sleep, and I'll try to make my eyes flick back and forth.
Interesting. Does it work?
Sometimes. Sometimes it does work.
That's when I bust out the binaural beats.
Synesthesia is when you can see, you hear in color. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, ECAT, can you tell us what it is?
Look, here's the whole thing you have to understand about video. It's a hypnotic medium, okay? It puts you into an alpha state. And, in the old days, you would learn rhetoric, right? Which is the art of using words in order to convince people of things. And hypnosis is a pattern. To learn hypnosis, you memorize patterns of speech. Because words are the programming language for getting people to understand the ideas in your head, and you put the ideas in their head, and you use words. Sometimes you use tone of voice. There's a reason why Tracy and I changed our microphones. Tracy got a new microphone, and her microphone is a couple of inches from her face. I got a keyboard tray so that I could pull this microphone closer to my face, because my voice goes down about an octave when the microphone is this far away. Tracy's voice goes down an octave, which makes us more persuasive. If we were using the crappy microphones on our computers, we wouldn't be as persuasive. It's funny because I think our subscriptions went up when we got new microphones.
Oh, that's interesting.
I just thought of that.
Just wait, if we were actively thinking hypnotic stuff to talk about, how many more people we could get to subscribe and join us on Locals.
Were we going to have Pat on today? Did we talk about that?
No, we talked about having him on, and then we couldn't make a decision about it, and then he got booted off of Twitter, and you got booted, so then everything went into a tizzy.
Right.
But we'll have to have him on again soon.
Yeah, we were just discussing. Oh, Ali is now saying to me, WTF on my getting banned.
Tell him to tweet the stream and join the fun.
I don't.
2 turntables on a microphone. Yeah. But I mean, this is kind of stuff. If you're looking for something to distract yourself from all the chaos and craziness, go read The True Believer. Number 1, because that's the first thing I did yesterday morning when I felt kind of normal again. I'm like, I just want to go back to my books. So I sat down and recorded some of it, and I'm sharing it with everybody on Locals. So you can go to therealityos.locals.com to join our little community over there. And then I went from one book to another book to another book, and just went after things that, I don't know, were something different. Because I did walk outside and everything seems to be the same.
Yep. I did. I started off with The True Believer. We're putting a list up. I guess I
have a compiled list of our recommended reading for everybody that's in Google. So it's a shareable doc.
Right. Yeah, I went from The True Believer to, I tried to do Tragedy and Hope, but it was 1,400 pages. So I found Tragedy and Hope 101, which is a critical analysis of Tragedy and Hope, which is much better. Although Jay's analysis, I highly recommend Jay Dyer. If you go to jaysanalysis.com, he's got an all-you-can-eat for $5 a month model, which is like the best deal on the internet. And he has 16 hours of analysis on Tragedy and Hope. And the way that Jay works is that the first hour on a subject is free, and then the second hour you have to be paying the $5 a month to go look at it. So he goes through the 8 sections of the book, and the first section for each, the first hour of analysis for each of the sections is free. And then if you want the second section of each analysis, which is usually more valuable just because that's where he makes conclusions, is $5 a month. So I highly recommend that.
Yeah, it's better than trying to read that book.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few books though that are small books. Like if you read The New World Order by H.G. Wells, which basically lays out the roadmap for what is going on right now. It's a short book. I think you can read it probably in 3 hours or something. Likewise, The Impact of Science on Society by Bertrand Russell, which is another one of their handbooks for what's going on right now, is a short book. You could read it in a few hours. I think I've read it about 4 times at this point because I'm so horrified by the matter-of-factness of it.
Yeah, they have a cold, hard, calculated plan.
Right. And they're sticking to it.
Yeah. But you and I have differing opinions on how quickly they want to move right now. They being the New World Order types.
So what is your opinion on that?
My opinion is they've had a bang up year with all the lockdowns and everything. And I don't know if you've seen it today, but apparently just the news networks announcing that Joe Biden is the presumptive, president-elect, whatever, coronavirus is magically starting to not be as lethal. So that tells me that they're stepping off the gas a little bit. I don't think that now is the time for them to make their move.
Right. And I did tell my leftist friends, including my family members, that they should watch to see if coronavirus disappears after the election. So. Yeah.
But Simon, they don't take a digital image of every single ballot.
Yeah,
they run them through machines. Maybe those machines take it. I mean, I've voted in 2 different types of precincts in Pennsylvania. One with electronic machines, touch screen, like I was ordering a sandwich at McDonald's, or fill out the old Scantrons like we had to take the SATs, the little bubble with a pen. And the bubble with the pen you feed into a machine. I don't think that machine's taking a digital copy of it. The touch screen printed out something that looked like a gigantic CVS receipt that I fed into another machine. Maybe there's a digital copy of this. I don't know. But I think...
Yeah, and I think it's different. I think it's different from precinct to precinct in these states.
That's what I'm saying. I've voted in 2 different precincts in Pennsylvania, and it was different in those 2.
But not in the same election.
No, I didn't vote in the same... No. I've changed where I lived, and because as a result of that, I now vote in a place where we have fancy machines.
Right. When I was on social media last week, Twitter was still trying to get me to register to vote after the election.
Of course.
And so I just clicked on the link to see what would happen, and I signed up, and I got a note saying that they were sending me my ballot, and then a day later they said, we're not sending you your ballot because you already voted. So that made me feel good, because if they had sent me a ballot, I would have been really upset. The Great Reset is a bestseller on Amazon. Yeah, because here's how bestseller lists work. The World Economic Forum puts a book out for sale. Then they buy 10,000 copies, and they hand them out to people at Davos as they register at Davos. And it shows that they sold enough books to hit the New York Times bestseller list this week.
We've gone through this before. This is how Bernie Sanders gets a best-selling book.
Right.
It's nonprofits that buy it, but that Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum. Is that his position, Peter?
Yeah, he's the creator and chairman of the World Economic Forum. Yeah.
And they're responsible for this Build Back Better nonsense. That's right. Their line. So meet your new overlords, everyone. These creeps.
Yep.
So I look forward to Biden taking the oath wearing a mask. Then we'll just have gone full sci-fi film.
Jay's analysis has I read The Fourth Revolution by Klaus.
By Klaus.
The Fourth Industrial Revolution it's his second to the last book. He's come out with another book since then. I doubt this guy has written any of these books. I think that this guy has meetings with writers, and he discusses with them what they need to be writing about. And then,
but you said it was really well written, right? Like hypnotically written? Or am I making that? Was that another one of these?
It is hypnotically. No, it is hypnotically written. And in fact, I think that if you read the the fourth generation. I forgot that I had told you that, so I had to go back into my memory banks and remember what I said to you. Yes, I don't think that Klaus Schwab wrote the meat of the book. If you want to look at it linguistically and hypnotically, go to the end of each chapter. The end of each chapter has the things you're supposed to remember in that chapter. I believe that's the part of the book that Klaus Schwab wrote. And then the rest of the book, each chapter is written in a hypnotic induction style, because I believe that the target audience for the book is all the bureaucrats. It's for Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi's staff and people at the Council on Foreign Relations and the Brookings Institute and the United Nations. These are the people who are supposed to be reading this and be programmed by this stuff. And you'll find that, like that Build Back Better alliterative thing that they came up with, the book is filled with catchphrases and rationales for why whatever it is that they're trying to do is correct. I mean, the biggest tell for me is always like climate change, because when you talk about scaffolding, it's like, well, we have to do this because we have to save the planet, and that's a cause and effect statement, right? If you don't do this, and a double bind at the same time, if you don't do this, then the world will end. That's why you have to do this. And if you want to go along to get along, then you might say, well, it's not going to hurt me to separate my garbage. It's not going to hurt me to wear a mask. So, I'll just do it because it'll show that I'm a good civic citizen. But the insidious part of it is it's like putting the gold star on, right? At least as far as masks are concerned. But jumping back to Klaus Schwab, each one of those chapters is written in a way so that the person who's the target audience, which is the bureaucrat, when they're asked a question by a reporter or something, they're all going to have this homogeneous answer that they come up with. So that's the purpose of that book.
And they probably all get it on day one. Welcome to your new office. Read all these books. All right, we got a bunch of comments here to catch up on. Maybe tomorrow we'll bring new headlines and we'll see lawfare. I'm not against any of that. I would love to see this overturned. It would be the greatest thing.
I would love to see law and order. Trump has been tweeting law and order, law and order, and law and order. And every time he does, it just bothers me because he's the chief executive and the Justice Department reports to him. He could. Yeah.
As you asked me earlier, where's Bob Barr? Or Bill Barr? Why do I want to call him Bob?
Bill Barr, the guy who covered up Iran-Contra and the BCCI scandal.
Do you know the answer to this one?
Is H.G. Wells related to Herman B. Wells, Chancellor of Indiana University? It wouldn't surprise me. Again, it's all bloodlines, right, Dave? So,
yeah, Arthur, that is the only option, but it's just not going to be on the table.
It's extra constitutional, unfortunately. There's nothing in the Constitution about having a redo election. The Supreme Court could order it. The Supreme Court has been making law since Marbury versus Madison, so they could do it. But I don't trust Roberts. He's compromised. What if the world is populated by people who only know how to code?
Someday it will be.
That's the plan. It looks like the direction it's going in.
Hello from Australia, and thank you for joining us. How's your continued lockdown going? It could be worse.
And do you actually have a shotgun, or is that just your handle because you miss having a shotgun?
Never made it through the whole book. That's about the Klaus Schwab book.
Yeah, like I said, if you understand that the beginning, I say this about like Harvard Business School books. If you go, a lot of books that are, especially the ones that are written as doctoral dissertations, the one specifically that I'm talking about is The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen, which was one of the first Harvard Business School books that I read. Usually what happens in those books is that they make in the introduction, they go over all of the things that they're going to present in the book. And then all of the rest of the middle of the book is case studies where they're proving each one of the things that they talked about in the introduction. And then the last chapter is usually the conclusion that they came from looking at all the case studies that they introduced in the first chapter. So if you assume that the work that they did in the case study is correct, a lot of books, especially business school books, you can read the first chapter and the last chapter, and you get 90% of the value out of the book. And so as far as Klaus Schwab's book is concerned, if you read the first couple of chapters and understand that most of what is being written is this hypnotic induction, and then you jump to the last page, which is usually just like a little paragraph or something, that's probably the part that Klaus wrote. And so if you go through the whole book and you just look at the last pages on every chapter, and you read the first 2 chapters to kind of understand how the hypnosis works, then you'll get 90% of the value out of that book without having to read the whole thing.
Not a bad formula. To answer your question, what brand of e-cig do I use? It is a Smoke Tech Stick V8. It lasts me all day. It's a 200 milliamp hour battery on that. And I've got multiple backups.
I thought you were going to say it's a 200 milligram something.
No. That's my e-juice is 25 milligrams of nicotine. Yeah, it is like a book of binaural beats. It's a haiku. At least you can do. I don't know what that was. Or scarlet letter. True. All right. Connie says wearing a mask is like muzzling yourself. It's a form of self-censorship. Absolutely. And it also shows that you're willing to bend the knee.
Yeah.
Save the whale, save the snail, save the quail, save the trails. That's pretty good. You should sell that one off to the World Economic Forum.
Did he get that from George Carlin, though? I mean, I don't know if you've seen the George Carlin routine where he talks about how saving the planet is ridiculous because we're basically a bad case of fleas to the planet. The planet's fine.
Yeah.
The planet is fine. We're the ones who are fucked.
Yes. Yeah.
The media does not call election results. Not if you ask them. If you ask them, they tell you that they do. Yes.
And a lot of people believe that they do. So
right.
Bill Barr's Clinton's CIA handler, huh?
Yeah, they're all in bed together, you know.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Alfred Kinsey's wife. Your mom's Brownie Troop leader. So when your mother was in the Brownies, okay, is that how I understand that? When your mother was in Brownies, her troop leader was Alfred Kinsey. Okay.
Kinsey's wife.
Kinsey. Did she ever see Dr. Green?
It's a little creepy.
It is.
All right. My friends are disheartened and resigned to the new normal. It's a mess. This is in Australia.
Well, I'll tell a funny story. So I have a neighbor. I live in an apartment building. I live in a tiny apartment building in a neighborhood that is completely surrounded by like $10 and $15 million houses. And because of the zoning laws, they can't knock this building down. And I'm lucky enough to like live in this ridiculously nice neighborhood. And one of my neighbors, when Trump got elected, she's an elderly woman, and she has a resist ball cap, and she has a resist sticker on her bumper sticker of her car. And you know, I think that she knows my politics, but I'm always very kind and friendly to her. Like I don't show her any ill will. I've always wanted to ask her the question, hey, I like your RevCom hat, you know, because the resist hashtag was originally introduced, and all of those posters were printed by the Revolutionary Communist Party of the United States. And so I've thought often about asking her how when she joined RevCom, and you know what is it about communism that makes her believe that. But I don't think that she actually knows that. I think that
of course she doesn't.
I think she actually just doesn't like Donald Trump, and she thinks that this is a way of her virtue signaling. But
all right, so how's this going to help our Australian friend?
Well, in the laundry room, they put up, when COVID started, they put up a piece of paper on the wall that had 2 people on it with an arrow in between it, and it said 6 feet, and the apartment building management was forced to put this notice up in the laundry room. So I just went in there when I was doing my laundry one day, and I took a Sharpie out and I wrote #resist on the sign, knowing that my neighbor is a resist person. So
Yes.
that door swings both ways.
It's counter programming. So he's saying the 450 silver shotgun is a small
Italian motorbike.
Interesting. Well, get on it and get out of there. But there's nowhere to go, I guess.
Yeah, there is nowhere to go. You can go to Texas or Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, I suppose.
You can't get into the United States right now. Yes. Trump needs to fire everybody. And then pardon Julian Assange, pardon Edward Snowden, and start declassifying everything.
And Jeremy Hammond.
There's a long list.
Yeah. How did I increase your productivity? Oh, by telling you the shortcuts on reading books. Yes.
I also heard James Altucher, who he is a podcast host, serial entrepreneur, really interesting guy all around. And he reads a lot of books and has people on to talk to them about their books. And he said his trick for speed reading is just to read the very first paragraph in full of every chapter and the last paragraph in full. And then otherwise he reads the first and last sentence of the intervening paragraphs in every chapter. Because most of it, just like you're saying, is filler. Like you get the highlights at the first sentence of a paragraph and the last. So you can easily blow through books pretty quickly like that.
Yeah, I think Chuck Johnson's greatest quote, besides in the future everybody will be famous for 15 gigabytes. The best Chuck Johnson quote that I know is, most books should be articles. Most articles should be tweets, and most tweets shouldn't be written.
Oh, man. That's pretty good.
It is pretty good. Charles is a smart guy.
All right. Oh, that's funny. Okay, yes, he's saying it was Carlin.
Yep.
But it works.
Yep. Miss Carlin. We could use him now.
Yeah. So Dave is saying yes, that was his mom's Brownie Troop was headed by Alfred Kinsey's wife in Bloomington, Indiana in the mid-1950s. Yep. Carlin said the earth will shake us off like a bad case of fleas. True. He also said that maybe the earth wanted us to make plastic.
That's right.
Yes, resist.
Yeah, there's a book by Kevin Kelly, I think, What Do Machines Want? And the conceit of the book is that technology uses human beings in order to make itself better. That, the iPhone, if you think of the iPhone as a species, that it gets better every generation because human beings make it better. And that if you think of technology as a life form, that we are actually just enhancing that life form. Productivity by saying reading.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I had already read it, so I just moved on because then I figure everybody else has read it.
Right. Well, I was talking, I couldn't read. So.
I know.
All right, but thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. That's why Tracy and I do this is to try to get people up to speed. Tracy and I are very complimentary because she's read a ton of stuff. She's always talking to me about things that she's read that I haven't read. And then likewise, I talk to her about stuff that I've read that she hasn't read. And if you approach the world in a curious way and kind of leave yourself open to the idea that you don't know everything and that there's something that you can learn from everybody or every experience that you've got, including what's going on with the election right now, you can make yourself a better person just by trying to figure out how to deal with it and make yourself smarter. Dave Underdown made some comments, and you and I have talked a couple of times. You've caught me a couple of times talking about things that I haven't scaffolded, and maybe we should just talk about scaffolding for a second. And scaffolding is the idea that in order to understand something that's up here, you have to build the story up. And George Webb was here last week, and I was talking to him about his lawsuits because he filed 2 lawsuits last week. And when you put together a lawsuit, you scaffold. You have to start with listing out all of the facts and then how the facts led to the circumstances that you're alleging in the lawsuit. And I said to George, I said, you can't just jump into the middle of a video and start talking about the Saipov truckers, which is one of the rabbit hole data points in one of his stories. Because if you don't have the context of the rest of it, nobody knows what that means. And so that's the challenge, I think, for getting anybody to understand anything is to understand that just because you know something doesn't mean that you have the skill set to be able to deliver it to them in a concise way. And I certainly am not great at it, which is part of the reason that Tracy and I decided to do this in the first place.
That was quite lovely.
Was it?
Yeah. Thought you wrapped it up nicely there.
Okay. I try.
I know. All right. Well, let's see if anybody has any questions, because otherwise we'll just keep bird walking around. Yes, Connie, you're right. Knowledge is cumulative and never ending. It evolves over time, and reading helps to speed it up. It also gives you more context.
It also suspends your disbelief in a certain way. I mean, I was talking to somebody last night about, maybe it was you, Tracy, about how when you read, it's a completely different experience. Oh, no, I was talking to Merkley. When you read, it's a completely different experience than like watching a movie, because you fill in your own pictures. Milton Erickson, who's the famous hypnotist, kind of perfected the idea of speaking in vagarities. Because when
vagarities?
Vagarities.
I've never heard that word before.
Vagueness. Speaking.
I would do it like Will Ferrell Bush, where it would be vagaries, like strategeries.
Well, I don't know if I used it correctly or not. Maybe the audience can correct me if I did.
No, I think it's probably a word. I've just never heard it.
I think vagarities is the word.
Mm-hmm.
But if you speak in vagarities, people will fill in their own ideas about what they think you mean. And those ideas become their ideas. And so when you make a suggestion that's based on a reality that they've constructed, they're going to remember it more than a reality that you've constructed for them. It's kind of like noir movies. So you've got, on one end of the spectrum, you have like Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, kind of, films that cost or all of the comic book movies, films that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, because in order to take this completely out of this world fantastic universe, you have to render it on the screen, and that costs a lot of money. On the opposite end, you've got the noir films of the 1940s and 50s that were made in Hollywood, and the reason that they were called noir is because they had they were usually stories that took place at night, and there was usually a lot of unlit areas in the picture. So, imagine a woman standing under a street light smoking a cigarette, and a guy comes walking in out of the dark and has a conversation with her and then walks away. It's a lot less expensive to shoot a movie that way, because the only thing set that you've got is the sidewalk underneath the street light, because everything else kind of falls into this inky blackness. But beyond that, it allows the people who are watching the movie to fill in their own minds what they think the rest of the world looks like that they can't see.
I was thinking of, so I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt
I was
you, but I was thinking about the movie The Purge today.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I probably should at this point.
Yes, because we've just lived through The Purge plus Joker plus Game of Thrones. So if you want to understand the reality, that would be the backdrop that I would suggest. And the beauty of the Purge movie is that it all takes place within a house. The camera might go outside once. So the idea is that in some future dystopian world, one day a year is called the Purge. All laws are suspended, including murder. So people just go on rampages. And the lead character in the film is Ethan Hawke. I think it's Ethan Hawke. And he took basically no money to do it, but he took back end points. They probably made the film for less than $1 million, would be my guess. All you're talking about is one location. It's night. You never leave that place. And so it's the same idea that you're talking about now with the noir, where you kind of leave all this darkness about, and then you can fill in the blanks because it's just banging on windows and we don't know where these guys are going to come in. How are they going to get into the house? Because obviously there's going to be some breach of the house. We've got 90 minutes here. So where's that going to come from? And it drives that whole narrative. But they turned that show into that movie has now had subsequent movies made, and they've also made it into a TV show. And that was the reason I thought about it today, because in the first movie of the TV show, it's Purge Night, and you're attending this party thrown by the elites. They celebrate Purge Night because it's when they get rid of all the riffraff and let the riffraff fight each other. And they can also go out in the streets and participate by killing the riffraff. And that came to mind today when I was thinking about the left passing around these lists that they're making of all the Trump people. They go, oh, it's your Purge list. That's right. Cool. We are living this fake world now. In
a weird way, I predicted this. I was talking to the head of personnel at the White House, or I was texting back and forth with him because somebody was trying to get me in there. And, my pushback was that Trump hasn't gotten rid of any of the Council on Foreign Relations people, any of the globalists, and these are the people that are causing all the problems for him. And I thought that based on what happened to Roger Stone, that if I went in there wouldn't be anybody who had my back. And, I don't have vast resources to be able to defend myself with attorneys and stuff. And I kind of like where I live. And so I demurred.
No, I don't think Peter's point was that black and white movies are better than color. It just, that style.
Yeah, people have asked me this question before. Black and white moves you from the realm of the known into the realm of the unknown. Nobody sees anything in black and white. Even people who are colorblind, they're just missing certain colors. They still see some colors. And whenever you're watching something that's in black and white, it moves you out of the realm of the known. You're not looking at a world that you know or you understand, which more readily allows you to kind of fill things in for yourself, especially if a lot of it is dark. My favorite noir film, I think, is Devil Thumbs a Ride, which is Lawrence Tierney and Veronica Lake. I think they're in it. But yeah, black and white is interesting. The movie Gaslight, interestingly enough, I think that's black and white. Mm-hmm. I believe my guess. This is pure speculation on my part, but I know that Milton Erickson was working with the OSS. I know that Hollywood was working with the U.S. military. I know that there was an Air Force base that was built in Lookout Canyon, in Laurel Canyon on Lookout Canyon Drive in the 1940s. And the movie Gaslight came out in 1943. And there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where Charles Boyer is with Ingrid Bergman, and he's talking to her, and his language is Ericksonian induction. All of the words coming out of his mouth and the way that the words are presented to the audience has two effects. One is the character in the movie is hypnotizing the woman in the movie. But the more insidious part to me is that at the same time he's hypnotizing the woman in the movie, he's hypnotizing the audience. Because you have this suspension of disbelief and the way that the words are constructed linguistically, it puts you into a trance. That movie is a trance-inducing movie, and the entire premise, I'm guessing, was to determine whether or not you could hypnotize audiences watching movies by using direct inductive techniques in the movie. Would you say?
Right. I would say the Purge Night is yet to come. They're preparing the list for Purge Night, but this has been sitting out there for a while now, Peter, and I wanted to. What do you think happens to the country once Trump leaves office?
Let's just. I'm not assuming that he's leaving office, first of all, and that might be the denial part of anger, denial, bargaining, depression, acceptance. If he does leave office, then I would read The Great Reset. I would go to the World Economic Forum website. I would look at the Georgia Guidestones. I would listen to Jay Dyer talk about Bertrand Russell, the impact of science on society, and read that book. I would listen to Jay Dyer and read H.G. Wells' New World Order book, because this is what they want to do. This is where they want to go. This is what we're up against. They want, and the thing that's the most dire thing to me is that they want to get rid of 7 billion of the 7.5 billion people that are on the planet right now. And I don't know if they want to do that quickly or not so quickly.
Kind of messy if you do it quickly. What do you do with all the bodies?
Right. So here's a scenario. Like they make vaccines mandatory, and then they find out 6 months or 6 years from now, oops, they make you sterile. Or oops, they make you susceptible for another malady that hasn't been unleashed yet. And oops, everybody dies, and we're sorry we made the mistake, but there's only the 500 million of us that are left will survive and carry on. If you think about it, and these people are bankers, right? And when you have as much debt as we've got, how do you bankrupt the world economy? Well, you can actually make your books whole if you just get rid of 7 out of 8 people, right? Because then you'll have plenty of assets to go around. Soylent Green was predictive programming.
Yes.
Yeah. We will be eating each other soon. He won't be leaving office. He'll win this one. I want you to be right, Connie.
Yep. That's what we both would like the outcome of this to be.
So I didn't listen to Scott Adams, but I'm assuming that that's what Scott Adams is saying is like, keep up the stiff upper lip and let's move forward like he's not leaving until 2024. And Soylent Green is what you do with the bodies.
There's only 500 million people left. They can't eat 7.5 billion people. I mean, maybe they just use Musk's rockets and just catapult us all into space, so our bodies just,
I mean, the most troubling thing, if you go to the World Economic Forum website, they want to get rid of money by 2030. They want to have a world where you don't have money, where everything is just provided for you. Scott says 60% chance of winning. Yeah. That's a feeling. You have to understand. Scott's talking about.
Said that. He said it in the beginning of his show, that this is the feeling that I have. My brain says it's not going to be.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's still, you would fill up volcanoes. There's no good way to do this. I like that we're debating about how they're going to eat us. Let them eat cake. Let them eat Soylent Green. But somebody a while ago asked what the book was that I've been reading, and it's The True Believer by Eric Hoffer. And if you go to the local site, therealityos.locals.com, I'm going to add I've already put part 1, chapter 1 up there, so you can listen to that. I have 2 and 3 finished, but that'll be bonus content for anybody who subscribes. And then I'll also put up the book list that we have on Locals. Yeah, I don't think the left will forget. These are the people that have been on edge for the last 4.5 years. Like white knuckle clinging to it.
And if you buy Tragedy and Hope, they started down this path in 1895 for this round. They almost had it in 1919, and that didn't work, so they got the Council on Foreign Relations going. And then after World War II, they got the Intelligence Act, or the Security Act, National Security Act of 1947. So this is the progress that progressives are talking about.
You have to think about them as the Fabians, which is what they are.
Yeah, they are Fabians. So if you read those books, if you read The Impact of Science on Society and The New World Order, which are both very small books, you'll know what they want. And then at that point, it just becomes about discerning what their methods are. And their methods are Hegelian dialectic. They create problems that point to solutions that go in the direction that they want the world to go in.
Yeah, I do think that does scare the deep state, that a lot of people are starting to figure this out. But what I don't think that the left is anticipating right now, because they're so singularly focused, is, I know, Peter, you had several friends that got red pilled big time by the switch of the media talking about COVID over to the Black Lives Matter stuff, and suddenly COVID went away. But how many normies are going to at least have an inkling of all the potential fraud that's out there, and it's going to raise questions in their minds?
Well, the issue is cognitive dissonance. You know, my daughter and ex-wife both think that I'm nuts in not thinking that Donald Trump is crazy and not understanding that Joe Biden is a normal guy that's going to fix everything. And I got in big trouble because I made a glib 19th Amendment reference, which, bothering my ex-wife, I didn't really care about. Bothering my daughter, it was not good. It was not good for my relationship with my daughter, and I shouldn't have said it. But, you know, we're in a situation where half the population believes the other half of the population is crazy, and they are right. And the left does not have a monopoly on that. There's a lot of MAGA people who don't know what's going on, or they have half, or they're Q people. They've got half of the story right, and half of the story they're not, isn't nailed down. And so why is that? And that's because it's about this Hegelian dialectic thing. It's about creating conflict, because conflict is how you get change. You know, when Barack Obama was saying hope and change, you know, he was kind of saying you're at the end of your ability to do something. That's why I hate the word hope. And I don't use the word hate a lot, but I hate the word hope because it indicates counting on a force that's outside of yourself when you have nothing else. And I think we're Americans, and that's why I support what Ali Alexander is doing on Stop the Steal. I don't know that by itself will work, but it's certainly, in concert with all of the other efforts that are going on, it might make a big dent. And politicians, you know, Ali said this last night, and I think it's true, politicians don't like it when huge groups of people start marching in front of their offices. It makes them afraid. And I think making them afraid in a peaceful way, you know, as Mike Cernovich says, it's all love, brother. It's all love.
It is, but I mean, that's kind of the face you have to put forward in this.
Right.
And so I'm trying to, when you talk about hope, it makes me think just a little bit of this one line from The True Believer, because he talks extensively about hope being a galvanizing force for mass movements. And so if this doesn't describe what we're seeing with the street violence and all this kind of stuff, Hopper says, when hopes and dreams are loose in the streets, it's well for the timid to lock doors, shutter windows, and lie low until the wrath has passed. For there is often a monstrous incongruity between the hopes, however noble and tender, and the action which follows them. It's as if ivied maidens and garlanded youths were to herald the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
I think I have that line underlined on my...
Yeah, I have it written up on my wall of quotes over here, too, because it's so perfect. All right. I don't know which that is. Okay. Do you guys really think Trump would have been unprepared? It's hard to tell if he was unprepared. I mean, how do you not have boots on the ground? You know, he was tweeting for weeks about be a poll watcher for Trump. Well, how did that go? I think everybody now has seen the video of the poll watcher in Philadelphia trying to get access to the polls on Tuesday morning and getting shouted down by two Democrat poll workers and got chased off. So what good does that do?
Right. And when you declare in 2017 when you create an agency called the CISA and you declare with executive order that that voting is critical infrastructure in the United States of America and needs to be dealt with military protection, and then the head of that agency is tweeting out about how he can guarantee that the Michigan elections were not impacted by Russia, China, and Iran, then I want to know who his father is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you look him up on the CFR's website?
I did. I started to do a background check on him, but I'm not as good as some of the other people who watch us. So, yeah, the guy who's the head of the CISA.
What's his name?
I will tell you.
All right, you're off to go look that up. But no, that's what makes me think he was unprepared. Everybody knows that these big cities pull this stuff, and you have to have a way to combat that. So he could have at least seeded everybody's minds with this stuff. The Democrats are going to steal the election in the middle of the night. He pardoned Rob Blagojevich, for the love of God, and had him make he's out doing media saying this is definitely a steal. I'm a crooked politician that went to jail for being crooked, and I'm telling you, this is how it works. So the fact that we all know that, right? Democrats steal elections. Votes arrive in the middle of the night magically. It happened in 2018. And if not for Ali Alexander and Laura Loomer, they would have stolen Rick Scott's Senate seat and potentially put DeSantis into jeopardy. And they had a rental car with a trunk full of ballots. So this happens. Everybody's aware of this. They didn't have the ground game that they needed to make that stop. And Peter just took himself out of our broadcast. So I will answer some more questions. So the question is, did he plan to let them do this? That would be a great story. Did he plan to let them do this?
Yeah, I'd sure love that to be true.
Okay. ECAT's saying that she thinks his name is Kreber.
No, there it is.
Okay.
I put it up. Christopher Krebs.
So this is the guy we're pinning hopes and dreams on.
Right. Who's posting Twitter on his Twitter feed? He's posting pictures of his socks while the Republic burns.
I'll pull up his Twitter feed while you're doing that.
Yes, because I am unable to do that.
Oh, that's right. You're in the land of the band.
Right.
Behind the silicon curtain. So, Christopher, is he at his name, Peter?
I think it's something like CIAS Krebs, maybe. I think if you type in CIAS in the Twitter search, it'll come up.
I think I found him.
Maybe socks are code. Somebody says that's like, yeah, trust the flan.
Right. Well, do you know there's a politician that's famous for his socks, and that's Justin Trudeau. Oh, this can't be him, is it? No, that's interesting. So another guy with his same last name.
Well, the beginning of his Twitter handle is CISA.
Okay.
So if you type in CISA.
I found him. I got him now. You want to give me the screen?
Yeah, I will.
All right. Let me find
Stop sharing.
his socks. All right. Here we go. Okay, so isn't that calming?
This is the guy that Thomas Wichter is saying is going to save you.
He's got keep calm and vote on. Vote on as many times as you like. What's the deal? And he superheroed himself.
Yeah, with a mask on.
Of course. Oh, Lord. All right, so let's see his media here.
We're going to find out later that he created the list of...
Oh, there you go. He's sharing Jackie Chan. GIFs.
I think it's Bruce Lee.
Oh, Bruce Lee.
Oh, yeah. There's his socks. November 6th, 2 days after the election. Okay. The election has been stolen. His agency is in charge of ensuring election integrity, and he's posting pictures of his socks.
And he calls it his sock game. So
Right.
America's election workers, they're counting votes fueled by Halloween candy and a love of democracy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Rumor control. Oh, look, here's the sock game again.
November 5th, the day after the election.
Yeah. Do we trust this clown to be saving us from the Democrats? Right. It is unbelievable. Yeah, trust the plan got us this clown.
And well, Trump appointed him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. Their code for game over.
Yeah, they're game for it, sucker.
Yeah. You keep putting rats in the system and then you wonder, why can't we clean up the swamp? Yeah, he is mocking us. He doesn't care at all.
He is mocking us.
They're all mocking us. And we're all going on lists. And we're all going to be censored. And so it's going to be an interesting world going forward.
It is, and if sock it to me. Okay, Shecky. Rudy Presser at Four Seasons.
Yeah, wasn't that the other day? That was in Philadelphia.
I watched it. It was great theater. You know, Rudy, did you watch the whole thing?
I didn't watch any of it.
Oh, I watched the whole thing. Yeah, Rudy comes out and he admonishes everybody, and he says that he's got 50 witnesses to voter fraud in Michigan, I think. I think it was Michigan. And then he said he's going to go next week. He's going to do the same thing in a bunch of other states. And they've announced that they're filing a bunch of lawsuits tomorrow. And that somebody said that part of the White House has been turned into a war room.
Finally.
Yeah, which should have happened. It should have been set up on election night.
It should have been ready to roll out before this. This was all predictable.
Yeah.
This is not something out of left field. This is not like, holy shit, one of those asteroids that Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock have been warning about is about to hit the Earth in 24 hours.
Right. I did see an asteroid story about an asteroid coming by yesterday, though.
Yeah, there was supposed to be one that passed close by Earth on Election Day.
Right.
Because people are still praying for the sweet meteor of death. But yeah, to predict what happens, say if Biden, is inaugurated and all that, what goes on? I can't get a clear picture of it in my head. And if you notice, I just looked up and to my left. So that's my construction.
Right.
So I'm reversed.
I think I'll be looking for a new state to live in. But
I'm already there.
I do like the weather here, but the people kind of suck.
Yeah. Yep. Worried for my children, yet relieved for my parents. Aren't witnesses to. Huh?
Yeah, I'm worried for my children. I mean, Tracy and I have talked about this because Tracy doesn't have kids, and I'm looking at my parenthood right now. It's like, did I do I love my daughter. I'd give my life for my daughter, but when I look at the direction the world is going in right now, I'm questioning my logic. It's a tough world to put somebody into, I think. But,
It really is. Well, and even in little children, right now are forced to wear masks. Like, I don't know what that does to the kids in my family.
3 of my daughter's friends committed suicide. One of them was a very close friend of hers during this COVID thing. It's not good for people's heads.
No, it's not. Yep. Well, they're still going to try to do Blue Beam, I think. That's the fake alien invasion. Maybe that would be a nice cap off to the year.
They had cried. Oh, I'm glad you're sure of it, Oli.
Show me some proof. I'm happy to entertain it. Where's the evidence?
I want you to be right. Show me.
O'Keefe does a better job of infiltrating their organizations than Trump has done. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if James comes forward next week and said, we had a bunch of Democrat poll watchers that were working for us. Here's the video.
Yeah.
There's no way this wasn't prepped 4 years in advance. Which one? Who? The Democrats have been prepping it. I don't know that the Republicans have.
Yeah, I mean, Mitt Romney's niece is the chairman of the GOP. And Trump is always talking about what a great job she's doing. And it's like, really? That stuff just makes me nuts.
Right. Why would you trust a Romney? And I think your aunt's right. The world's always been this bad. We just know more about it. That's true.
Yeah, I think
that's why Peter and I are digging into the books. And to his point, I mean, imagine what it felt like the day that Kennedy got assassinated. How much more discombobulated was the entire population? Right now, you've only got about 71 million people that are kind of like, what the hell just happened? But we haven't been thrown into complete chaos. I have 2 cousins who are pregnant, and I'm over here preemptively growing out my gulag beard. Good for you. My gulag game is going to be on. I'm wearing my 1984 shirt already. I'm ready to go.
I like Luke Rudkowski's Make Orwell Fiction Again.
Yes, sure. That's true. But see, I mean, there's an argument that he was in on all this. That's why he and Huxley were so prescient with their writing, is because they were privy to these people that you're talking about and their plans.
Right, like, and that this is all predictive programming. This is all they're laying out that Huxley and Orwell were basically doing their version of predictive programming, because the motion picture business hadn't really gotten ramped up yet. Good for you, Connie. My daughter, just because of the way that the world has been when she grew up, both of her parents were technologists. I would say that my daughter has, intellectually, is in her 30s, and emotionally is in,
her teens.
She's a tween.
Yeah.
For
sure.
So, and I think that social media, being immersed in social media, does that to you. And I blame myself for not moving to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho or something when she was born. But what are you going to do?
No.
Never bet against Trump. Never is a long time, Oli.
Right. And Pete Ross, I've been saying this to myself at least, and I told Peter earlier today, I think we're through the looking glass now. So for the last 4 years, the left has been in hysterics because they think Trump is some moron that can't read a book and is just corrupt to the core. His family's making money off of this, and at any moment he could tweet us into a nuclear war. And now we're going to live the next 4 years being like, oh my God, we have a broken-brained president whose family is corrupt as hell and stealing money all over the place. And he is coming in with war hawks. Peter, you told me that there's rumors out there that he's already reached out to Dick Cheney.
Yeah, Cheney, or maybe Cheney's son is advising.
He could get us all killed too.
Yeah.
So we've just completely reversed positions with the left.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with Cernovich. He should declassify everything. Don't do it on his way out. Start doing it now.
Yeah, start doing it now, and start doing it incrementally. Like, start with the low-level stuff, and then just start ramping it up every day until the Electoral College. Because
drip.
Because the day that on December 15th, when the Electoral College has their vote, then Trump, if he doesn't win, he becomes a lame duck, and he can order anybody to do anything he wants. And if they say la 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 la, you can't do anything. There's not much he can do. So he needs to do that. NOW.
Yeah, I wonder if the lawyers are telling him not to do it.
I don't know.
Because I would think it would be his instinct to just be like, "That's it. I'm taking everybody down." I mean, come on, I want to rip yard signs out, and I'm pretty zen about the whole thing.
Well, yeah, and I was telling Tracy earlier that the thing that I thought was the most virtue signaling bullshit thing that I saw was my neighbor who lives across the street, who didn't have a yard sign up, put up a Biden yard sign the day after the election. And it was like, what a pussy,
What will the left be like if Trump overturns the election, which he might?
Well, it wouldn't be overturning it. It would be winning it.
Yes. Overturning the media's call.
Well, go back to 2000 and look at what the media did, because they called it for Al Gore for 3 weeks.
I think it was until December 13th that he fought it, is what I've heard.
Yep. Okay, so 5 weeks.
But I don't know when it was. But there is precedent for it. But the left, I said to Peter earlier, we're talking about this, and it's such a fun idea. If you're feeling down, just think about if it got turned over, what happens on CNN? What happens on MSNBC? And I said, I do think that if it happened that way, somebody's going to die on live television, probably at their own hand. And I'm thinking Keith Olbermann. I think he's going to go full Bud Dwyer and just, hey man, they shot himself right out of existence.
Mm-hmm. I'd pay for Keith Olbermann.
And we're not giving up. We're just trying to be realistic here and prepare yourself, kind of the stoic way, right? You got to let's
see what happens. But understand that hoping is you don't want to go to hope. You know, you want to plan for one way or the other, but hope is not going to help you.
Energy will have to go somewhere. So then the question becomes, who harnesses it?
Right, and that's my fear about the whole. It's cold outside, and my window keeps coming open. That's my fear about the whole Hunter Biden laptop and Steve Bannon thing. Is like, I look at that and I think, is Steve Bannon counting on Trump not winning this thing, because that puts Steve Bannon and arguably Tucker Carlson into the leader of the right position when they go to remake the right, because the right is destroyed when Trump. Blackberries. George and the Blackberries, scaffolding. The devices that they were trading the secrets on are unimportant. The secrets are the important part. The content that was on the Blackberries. So yeah, they were all using Blackberries. The Blackberries are connected to mail servers. The mail servers have files on them. Let's get the files. That's where the proof is. I understand how the Blackberries lead there, but the Blackberries are not the end. The Blackberries are the beginning. So there, I said it.
No.
Jeff Sessions, Bill Murray. Because they are Jeff Sessions, Bill Barr, and Donald. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good question. Why? Why didn't, Trump could have done things before he got impeached. He let Sessions stay there for a year. He was the president. He could have just fired him, got somebody else.
He told Barr to declassify stuff over a year ago, and it still hasn't happened.
And I'm telling you, the guy at the White House that I was talking to was the head of White House personnel. It's probably still the head of White House personnel. He's 23 years old. Okay? Why is he there? Because his boss got fired, and Trump just put him in that job. You could do that. You could do that with the Attorney General. You could get rid of the Attorney General, and you wouldn't have... The Congress the Senate may not approve your replacement, but you could keep firing people that are there and making them the interim until you get to the person who's doing what you're telling them to do. That's what Adolf Hitler did.
Yeah. Yeah, Connie, I don't know. I mean, I think about my great-grandfather who was born right around 1900. I don't know the exact year, but he lived through then the First World War, the Great Depression, the Second World War, then the Vietnam War. He lived until I was 2 or 3 years old, so he died in 1982. So 1900 to 82 is a rough stretch. You got a lot of upheaval going on and a lot of hardship to live through.
Yeah, it's like my grandmother.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, Hugh. I don't know. Was he compromised himself, or was he so focused on other stuff that he didn't really dig into it as hard as we might have liked him to?
Right. So, we were talking about, Tracy and I were talking about this last night, which is like, are they, he could be compromised or he could be stupid, but I don't think that he's stupid. So, is he distracted? Maybe. Is he being given bad information? Maybe. Yeah. Trump is in charge of law enforcement. Nothing happened. Tracy and I have a mutual friend who's an attorney. He's one of my best friends, and he calls me up about 3 times a week. And I always say to him, so what do you think about those indictments?
Yeah, where are they? I don't know. I don't think that he's a Freemason, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't think he's a Freemason.
It could have been, but who cares who's pressuring?
Yeah, he's the president of he has his finger on the button, I keep posting the meme Nuke Davos that I think I'm going to get banned for, but I figure...
No, you got banned for tweeting some math.
It's so over the top because I don't have a nuclear weapon over there. Me too, CB. Anyway.
Yeah, he's saying me too to Connie.
So is this a good place for us to stop, Tracy?
I think so. I mean, if people want us to come back again later in the week, we can maybe do that. I know you've got some traveling to do.
Yeah, I was thinking about going up to the Bay Area tomorrow to do some stuff with my sister. And I'll try to get that taken care of before next week. You got banned for Nuke Davos? Interesting. I have a Nuke Davos meme that I made that I keep posting. Whenever the World Economic Forum, I just troll the World Economic Forum. He went to a Jesuit school. Okay, so the Jesuits are the other team, right? You've got the Mason team and the Jesuit team.
He also went to military school. So, Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
And so, Peter, I may have to bring on Pat if you're going to abandon me.
No, I'm not going to abandon you, but I do need to take a bio break, so I'm going to jump off the
feed.
No.
I'm talking about later this week.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because Lord knows I have to go to the bathroom, too. I've drank tons of water on this. Anybody have any final questions? And if not, remember, you can go join us on Locals.
Yeah, join us on Locals and follow us.
Questions.
Yeah, if you go to therealityos.com, there's a page up there that has the links to all of our stuff. And I would suggest following us on everything that you can, not for any ego-invested reason, except that based on what happened on Twitter today, I might just disappear off Twitter. So, and Carpe was here earlier. He knows that. Don't troll for me. Troll for yourself.
Yeah. We got to bring back the Meme Wars hats and update them.
Right, exactly. Put more badges on them. All right, everybody. Thank you.
All right, check in. All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next week, if not sooner.